All right. So we're going to be talking today. I got to take these out of my ears. That's so unbelievably distracting. We're going to be talking today about an expansion to the personal brand idea. And what I really want to focus on today is the specific social media platforms and what they can offer us as opposed to what they, well, threaten us with. And this is going to be a very social media focused lecture. This is something I've been interested in for a long time because there's a certain type of thinker that looks at social media as like a philosophical thing, right? It's like, oh, this is going to change the world. And they have this very optimistic attitude towards social media. And those people are dying out because, we used to think that our Facebook pages would be a gateway to some sort of utopia. But in reality, what it's kind of turned into is everybody's living room and everyone's arguing with each other and being rude. But at the same time, it's the advent of social media is worthy of a little bit of discussion for a lot of reasons. Because I used to ask my students at the beginning of these classes, I would ask, what is the writing that you do? What type of writing do you do the most, right? And a lot of students would respond to this with like academic writing, like I write essays or I write reports or I don't write at all. The real answer to that question is that, well, you probably write either via text or social media. Most people these days have a Facebook account. Like Facebook is one of the primary mediums that we use to communicate with each other. But when I ask students what they write, typically they look right over that and they try to go for something that's a little bit more, I don't know, academic. It's really weird. I never understand why they would do that. They don't consider social media even writing itself. They just don't. But my dog's over there barking in his sleep and he sounds like a squeaky wheel. It's really, really cute. Buddy. He sounds like something dripping. Whoop, whoop. No, I wish I could pick computer up and show him to you. He's absolutely adorable. Anyway, so many students don't consider social media writing to be writing at all, but it is. It's the native environment. And a lot of the bad habits that students have these days come from that native environment, right? And so the first reaction that a lot of instructors have when they see those types of, quote unquote, bad habits is to drive them out of the student. Like, we must erase this stuff that you've brought with you. I think it's a better strategy to try to appeal to the strengths of the social media writing because they are there. You just have to look for them. Now, let's start with Facebook, what Facebook was. I love to talk about the history of these things because it is just interesting to me, but it also shows you how far we've come. Facebook was primarily, in the beginning, a dating website. And as a dating website, it was extremely basic. It was only available to college students. You can look at the development of Facebook as a real correlation with the development of social media itself. People conflate social media with Facebook because for a lot of people, that was their first experience with it. Facebook used to be a very, very basic, scaled down sort of platform. There just wasn't much going on with it. You could go on, you could find friends, you could write a basic profile, but for the most part, you were only in contact with people who you were in school with. It was only available to college students and university students. I was one of the first people to get on when it opened up, and it's funny because somebody else made my profile for me and gave me the password to it because they were sick of me being all, I want a girlfriend. It's really, really funny. And it worked. That's how I met my wife. Love you to death, honey. As time went on, Facebook became less a sheer dating website for college students and gradually began to open its doors to more and more people. More and more colleges, more and more schools And eventually, anybody could get on and anybody could post anything they wanted to. That was when Facebook went from a very scaled down platform to the very busy platform that we have today, where there's a lot of bells and whistles and a lot of stuff going on. For a while, when Facebook had the wall function, where everybody's profile had a feed attached to it, it was ugly. That was the heyday of the Facebook games, too, when people would go onto Facebook and play Farmville and all that stuff. That was brutally bad. I remember Facebook just being like, it was like looking into a dead animal or something. It was nasty. Now, most people's experience of Facebook is focused upon what they call the feed. Now, this is really, really techno-jingoistic talk, but it gets really interesting. When you open Facebook on your phone, you are looking at the feed, and the feed is the updates that are coming to you in real time. That functionality of Facebook seems to have come in it was inspired by the innovations at Twitter. Twitter was the real master of the feed, where you go on Twitter. Twitter is extremely scaled down. It reduces the importance of the profiles in favor more of just the feed of updates. If you want to look at the profiles, you actually have to go and navigate to those profiles on the feed itself. And Twitter's profiles are very minimalistic, right? Twitter focuses primarily on conversation, whereas Facebook was very much a catalog of profiles. Both of these platforms were very writing focused. It was things that you were sharing about yourself, articles that you would share. For a long time, that was the real meat and potatoes of Twitter and Facebook. They kind of grew side by side. Now, Facebook and Twitter began with very, very specific purposes. Facebook as a kind of dating thing grew into a social cohesion thing. People would, organize groups, and people would, create events. And it was primarily just like a kind of a social grease. Twitter really focused around building communities of topics. And Twitter was one of the first platforms that I saw where professionals really started building following, right? People started meeting lots of people that they didn't have very thick social connections with. For me, Facebook is still primarily about people that I know in real life. I talk to my family on there, my relatives, some of them a little bit less enthusiastically than others, but almost everybody that I know on Facebook is someone I know in real life. It's changed a little bit because there are some groups that I belong to that I've made some friends on there, but for the most part, it's still mostly people that I know from the real world and people that I have actual connections with, right? Twitter was the opposite. Twitter was a megaphone that I used, or that people used, to talk to a lot of people that they didn't have tight connections with. People that were interested in similar topics or worked in similar fields. The big innovation behind that was the hashtag. And it's funny because I remember when the hashtag was the £, but it became the hashtag. A lot of people don't really know what a hashtag is, and the hashtag has become kind of a joke, which is okay. I mean, it's part of the popular consciousness. This lecture is not going the way I thought it would. But the hashtag, when you find a hashtag is something that you're interested in, like let's say you want to talk to other fans of Star Wars, you can find hashtags that are related to Star Wars, see what the conversation is with people who are using that hashtag, and jump in. And if you play your cards right, and if you have something interesting to say, or you go on and you look for friends to make, you can make lots of connections without even knowing who those people are. You can build a following really, really quick. Now, I don't do this as much as I used to, but I have about 1,000 followers on Twitter because I used to really go after those hashtags and I used to really participate in those hashtags. I had hashtags on poetry that I followed, haiku, politics, some technology stuff, science fiction, just a real, nice list. And when I would participate in those conversations, I would get followers. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up and talking about these two social media platforms the most is the fact that these are the ones that I found to be most useful. I found my clients for my freelance editing stuff. I found them on Twitter and Facebook. That's where I found the clients, right? That's how I used it. Because Twitter, if you're looking for someone to connect with on a professional basis, believe it or not, Twitter is pretty useful in that regard because it's people who are looking to connect with others who share common interests, not actual like physical meat space social connections. Now, LinkedIn, as much as LinkedIn is so useful, but it's very boring and it's only useful occasionally. LinkedIn, I didn't actually find my editing clients on LinkedIn. What LinkedIn gave me was the groups and the information I needed to find those clients on other platforms. So LinkedIn was a place for me to kind of build my professional identity and get the information I needed to go hunting for those people on Facebook and Twitter, mostly Twitter. Now, the reason I'm telling you all this, and I'm going to talk about a few more of the other social media platforms that are out there. And there are more that I know of. I'm not exactly an expert on this anymore. The world is moving a lot faster than me. I'm 36. I'm getting old. Like it kind of hit me the other day. I'm not as young as I used to be. There's some new teachers on campus who are like 24. And I was like, holy crud, I'm old. But there are times when I find myself massively outpaced by the social media stuff. I find myself having to play catch up with that. And it's caused me a little bit of anxiety because when I was young, when I was first starting out and teaching college, I was the guy who was like, I know all the Twitters, right? I know how to use the Facebooks. And I remember just being so cool. Okay, maybe not cool, but I had I was a person that the academic department went to for advice on how to utilize these things and what's safe and what's not safe and yada, yada, yada. So in any case, these are the three that I used. Let's talk about some other ones though. Before we get into this, let me tell you about what I want next week. This is going to be one of the first big parts of this personal brand assignment. I want you to go out and I want you to look up a social media platform and I want you to tell me about it. I want you to think about your skills. Remember, we talked about the skills earlier this week where you were supposed to be listing out what your skills were that you would have when you graduated and what you could go and build a brand for, right? What social media platform would be most useful for you in building a kind of personal brand? What would be most appropriate and what would be most useful? There aren't any real wrong answers to this because you can justify all sorts of things regardless of your position, right? So that's what I'm going to be looking for. I need to start thinking. This will be the first facet of the assignment. Let's put a due date on this section of it. This is still discussion. I want you to respond to this in the discussion forum by Tuesday. Let me look up the date. I don't think I have the date on here. Today's the 18th. Pardon me. Live streaming is the easiest way for me to put material up on YouTube because I'm not the type of person to really go back and edit video because I don't really have a lot of editing acumen. June 23rd is going to be the date for this. Okay. And it's just a discussion. You will go back and build the new assignment material from these discussions, but I'm going to grade this as a discussion. So don't freak out too terribly much. But let's jump in and start talking about these different platforms. So I can talk about these two together, Instagram and Snapchat. I played around with Instagram a few years ago. Snapchat, Snapchat is completely beyond me. I just don't understand Snapchat. It seems like something that you just play around with. But I'm actually making a note here. So Instagram is a visual communication platform. Facebook, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do visually on Facebook. You post images. You can do that on Twitter as well. But Instagram really seems to have made its mark by being a visual communication platform. I think Instagram might have been one of the first things that introduced filters, not filters as in I turned my face into a doggy, but filters as in like things that changed the appearance of a photo, right? Something that photographers would use to make their pictures more interesting than they actually are. So Instagram was primarily images. And I hate to keep bringing up my wife because I know that I don't know how she would feel about being the subject of some of this lecture material. But my wife follows some celebrities and some wrestlers because I got her into wrestling a little bit, which is I love her. But she follows some celebrities on Instagram, and they share a lot of interesting details about what they're doing with images, right? So it's an interesting way to communicate what's going on in your life. Now, for a professional, if you're an artist or if you're doing stuff that needs to be communicated visually, Instagram actually makes a lot of sense. Just to throw this out there, if you're a welder, there is a argument to be made that Instagram could be very useful for you if you're showing off something either artistic or something very complicated that you've done. With Instagram would help you show off the product of your work, right? So that's one way that you might be able to build some brand by trying to show off the actual physical work of your hands. Cosmetologists might have a lot of success with Instagram in showing their competitive stuff, their creative stuff, the things that they do in their shop. That makes a lot of sense. Now, it works a lot with Facebook as well, but Instagram might give you an interesting edge because of its primary visual medium. I hate Snapchat. And so many people that I know, so many social media people that I know love Snapchat. Look up what Snapchat's original functionality was. And I probably shouldn't talk about this, but it's too interesting to gloss over. Snapchat was originally designed to be a way to send images and pictures over the internet that would disappear soon after they had been viewed. Why would you want to do that? Why would that be? What's the purpose? What's the allure of that? It shouldn't take much thinking for you to draw the conclusion as to what people were doing with that. That being said, the explosion of Snapchat seems to have come from the visual filters where people can change the appearance of their face. One interesting article that I read about Snapchat said that beauty standards, filters on Snapchat have done some interesting stuff to what we interpret as aesthetic, to what is like attractive in the human face. The way that it narrows the cheeks, enlarges the eyes, gives color to the face. As a cosmetologist, there might be some interesting things you could do with that as far as building that brand, experimenting with those things. I'm not nearly smart enough to go much farther than that. But one of the other things that's interesting about Snapchat is the fact I might need to split this into 2 different lectures. This is going on long. But one of the other interesting things about Snapchat is the fact that corporations jumped on it. Like Pepsi has a Snapchat account. Some gaming companies, all sorts of places have that weird little like symbol. I don't even know. I think it's called a QR code. Golly, I feel old. And you take a picture of the QR code and you can friend that way. That's another interesting advancement of Snapchat that I think has become really interesting, is the fact that you don't necessarily have to go friend someone by finding their account information. You can take a picture of the QR code and you get the follows that way. That might be another one of the big advancements from Snapchat that made it launch into the stratosphere the way that it did. So thinking about those ways that you can make physical connections translate into social media ones online, that's pretty interesting. All right, we talked about Twitter, we talked about LinkedIn, Facebook. Let's talk about Reddit. I have a love-hate relationship with Reddit. I'm on Reddit a lot. Reddit is probably one of the primary ways that I get information these days, which is extremely problematic for anybody who knows about Reddit. Reddit is entertainment for me, and Reddit also gives me a lot of information that I find, appealing and interesting. All Reddit is, and it's funny because I was really big into another website back in the day, Digg.com, Digg.com was the first experience I had with these online community aggregates where people post, and the posts that get the most upvotes are the ones that get the most popular. I think this is the appeal of it. When someone posts something on Reddit, its degree of visibility is directly related to how much karma the person has. So building karma, having upvotes, means that you get more attention within the communities that you're posting in. Now, this makes Reddit, and I don't even know if Digg is still around anymore. It makes this platform a content curator in an aggregate that brings you what the community finds to be the most relevant and the most interesting and sometimes the most accurate, but not always. The communities on Reddit, and Reddit is filtered through communities. You can get a top page. You can filter Reddit by all and see what the most popular communities are. But the best experience of Reddit comes from your communities that you have joined. Those communities are going to give you the stories that you find that will, be the most popular. You can filter them by different ways, but Reddit will give you information based upon anything that you want. Whether it be, for me, a lot of it is politics. Yeah, I know, right? A lot of it's politics for me. A lot of it's technology, science fiction, writing, poetry. Reddit, I've written some books in my life. Don't worry, I'm not going to advertise them here because that would just be crazy unethical. But Reddit has been a primary marketing tool for me to sell my books. I've sold a lot of books because of Reddit. I go into these communities. I've built my karma so that I build up my visibility. And then when I publish a book, I'm guaranteed to at least reach a few eyeballs because I have the karma to kind of back it up. So again, you'll notice that I've got a lot of commonality here between these social media platforms. Reddit is a good visual medium. It's a good written medium, but you have to have enough social technological acumen to be able to create posts that will be upvoted, that's not necessarily easy to do. It takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of thought into curating good posts. And even then, very good posts often die in new just because sometimes there's a bit of luck that goes into it as to what catches fire within the community. So Reddit's cool because you can find almost any type of topic there. You might be able to find cosmetology. You might be able to find medical stuff. I'm sure there's medical stuff on there. I'm sure there's a group dedicated to nursing, to marketing, any type of topic, anything you're interested in. Reddit's got something for you. Unfortunately, Reddit also has a tendency to be extremely toxic. And this happens when you have an online group that curates its own content. These groups will often form cliques and will have, what's the word I'm looking for here? Their own biases. The political forums that I follow on Reddit lean very far left. I have to keep that in mind when I read information from there, that oftentimes the things that I'm reading, they might not be true or they might be overblown. I love my comments section, but I've been misled by my comments over and over and over again. It's important for me to come out and say, I've been burned a few times on that type of thing. So I love Reddit, but I need to not trust it so much. You need to actually go and verify it a little bit. So Reddit, if you get a chance, experiment with Reddit a little bit. It's really cool. Now, Tumblr. I don't even know what the hell Tumblr is. I've used it and I don't know what it is. I don't even know if it's still around. I think it died. Did it die? I'll have to go back and look at that. Tumblr, I think, had a lot in common with Instagram. And anyway, these last platforms confuse me. Telegram and Discord. Discord seems to me to be a lot like Reddit, but it has much more of a chat function. And it's like one of the things that I've learned with Discord is if you're playing a video game and you want to have a whole bunch of people that you're talking with while you're playing that video game, having a group and then starting a group stream is very easy with Discord. I think it's also easy Twitch. And by the way, Twitch and YouTube are both considered social media platforms. I'm teaching you via social media right now. Twitch is primarily a streaming platform, just like well, my YouTube videos are streamed, but Twitch, I'm so tied up in knots right now. Anyway, I'm going to say that the thing that you should take from this lecture and this kind of brief assignment that I've given you. It's a complicated world, isn't it? There's a lot going on. Things are constantly changing. Things are constantly moving. I don't even know what else is out there right now. You want some bonus points? Find a new social media platform that I'm not even aware of yet. I've done a pretty exhaustive list of these here. YouTube would be interesting. Who would benefit? What? I keep going back to cosmetology. I feel like cosmetology is almost universal. Cosmetology would benefit almost from anything, but having a video platform, there's all sorts of interesting things you could do with a pure video platform like YouTube or Twitch. So I'm giving you guys, this is a pretty big kind of like pie in the sky assignment, but there's a lot of possibilities here. Again, my main goal is to help you guys realize that social media is not necessarily something that you just fart around with and screw up and get yourself into trouble with. There's a lot of really interesting tools for you to play with. Stuff that could eventually end up, being useful for you in the future one day, right? And that's essentially what I want to do for you as an instructor. Take these ideas, take these platforms, check them out, look and see. For Tuesday, try to get back into the discussion forum and tell me which platform do you think would work best for your skill set to build a personal brand. Don't worry about it being right or wrong. It's all creative, all draft, all ideational phase. So we'll start putting this together into something a little bit more formal soon. I'm enjoying this assignment. I hope you guys are. I know it's kind of hard to enjoy an assignment. It is an assignment, but anyway, you guys have a great day. Hope you have a wonderful weekend too. Yay! End stream.